David Fine Media, taking the spoken word to the next level.
It's the show made by custom fans for custom fans. Every show, a special guest joins the guys to talk about customs, wrestling, memories, and more. And now, the starting lineup for the Bad Boys of Podcast. Introducing, from Sydney, Australia, standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 220 pounds, he is the Plan, Sash Man. Next, from parts unknown, his weight is at $1.98 a pound, the big Storian himself, Brother Brutus Valentine. And now, hailing from Music City, weighing in at none of your damn business, the man of 1,000 voices, the apprentice, talking Tyler Peters. And rounding out this fearsome foursome, the leader, the Pod Daddy, the ruler of Lady Droolers. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Mr. David So Fine. That's Tyler, Brutus, David, and Sash, the Figure Guys Podcast. Oh yeah!
Holy moly. That opening never, ever gets old. Yes, boys. The Pod Daddy is back. I let the kids run Asylum last week. It was an amazing, amazing show. Tyler was out for some personal family business. I'm glad you're back. I was out because, well, it was Memorial Day. I had a little too much to drink. So I let Brutus and Zash run the program. We had Alan Carpenter on last week. It was an amazing show, but tonight I'm back, and it's going to be an amazing show. And we have a great guest on the program, the great James HoneyCut.
Evening, guys.
Welcome into the show. And I just wanted to start off, on a serious note. We all go through tragedies in our life, and people, grieve in one way, grieve in another. We have, people that we know, family that we know. But our community of customizers and collectors have come together all because of something that you started for the great customizer, Pete. He lost his son, suddenly, and you put a great fundraiser together. I mean, it's taken off and taken on a life of itself. Can you kind of just go and talk about it and, kind of to give us an update before we get into some non-serious fun questions?
Absolutely. So the quick background of that one, obviously we know that Pete and his family lost their baby born the same day. I don't know Pete. I've chatted with him a couple times. I don't know the guy at all, but all I saw was, I knew they had to be hurt there. And I just thought about, if that was me, I would love to be able to see, hey, can somebody help me with a medical bill? Can somebody help my wife take her out to dinner? Can I do something to help them, ease a little bit of that pain? And I knew just reaching out to this wrestling community, going through Eligible for Life, it got, picked up a little bit by Wrestling Superstars group, Donnie Dunn's group. They helped us out, let me share there. I just liked that it was able to do something to, take their mind off of it. And Pete actually started kind of, messaging me and say, hey, he's really appreciative. The money is one thing that's beautiful. But what he appreciated even more than the money going towards it was it pulled his mind off of his current day-to-day and his hour by hours, minute by minute, because he's just watching what's going on in this community and seeing the love he has, what we can offer him. And that was powerful. Now I'm seeing guys commenting on the posts, offering extra donations. Even today, I saw Chad Heeb, one of our great members. I talk to Chad quite often. He's actually was buying some spots for other members just to bump up the pot a little bit, in other people's names. To see that is, that is just hard. That is just the community love is just outstanding. I actually, I'm a big bourbon guy. So this one's from Heaven's Door. It's one of my favorite bourbons. This is for Pete and his son. I figure Heaven's Door is an appropriate one for this occasion. I'm gonna pour myself one of Heaven's Door for Pete and his family. So I know his son is, entered Heaven's Door. So, I just knew that we could do something. I plan on running this live tomorrow. We're gonna have a couple smaller events following this to actually try to bump this up a little bit more to get this family a little bit more money, because we know medical bills in the United States are just through the roof. Funeral expenses, I can't even imagine. So anything we can do to help them, this is what this is what I can do I can offer. And it was embraced, and I'm really thrilled for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a thing that touched my heart. I mean, I lost my cousin, my 3-year-old cousin, to cancer, 3 months ago. But yeah, I mean, losing, and that was hard. But losing I just can't imagine losing my son, who is 6 years old right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would just be devastating. But I'm glad that the community is coming together. They're not, they're not picking sides. They're not, any bad blood between people. They're just throwing it to the side and helping a brother who is going through something that I would not put on my worst enemy. But I mean, I thank you for I thank you from the Figure guys and from everybody here on the panel. Thank you for what you've done for Pete and his family.
Yeah, it's it's really my pleasure. There's been a lot of conversations. Really, we should be thanking the community. To reach out. There's guys, like I said, just contact me, just offering extra support, extra, throwing figures in there just to help beef this up a little bit. And, without this group, it couldn't happen. And I'm really thrilled. Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely a great thing, but kind of turning from sadness
Sure.
Into something that Tyler said he was jealous of. Your wife, I mean, she must be freaking awesome. She lets you put your vacation around WrestleMania. I mean, can you talk about that? I mean, how cool of a wife is that?
Yeah, absolutely. It probably started. My oldest son was probably 9 or 10. We needed a little break from him, and I think his brother was probably 3 or something. They're about 5 years apart. And, I was really big into wrestling. I think NWO was one of those things that really brought me in deeper after. I mean, I was the Hogan era. I was born in the late 70s. And that was something that really drew me back into wrestling was, the Monday Night Wars. I was into it big up into the 80s. And obviously as you turn to be an adult, it's in family, you kind of get out of it. But then I got back into it, and then I started getting into WCW. Then I got back in WrestleMania. And she just was a trooper. Like, hey, let's go and do these, travel experiences. And our yearly vacation, was just, let's go to WrestleMania. Let's travel. Started off at WrestleMania 18, which was up in Toronto. And to know that your very first, my second WrestleMania, because I'm lucky enough to be in Detroit. And I was 7 years old or something, whatever it was. And for WrestleMania 3, no, it was 10. I was 10 for WrestleMania 3, because I was at WrestleMania 3 in the Pioneer Silverdome. That's about 40 minutes from me. So I was lucky enough to go there. But my second WrestleMania was The Rock and Hogan. You want to talk about epic. Rock and Hogan and Toronto. That was my second WrestleMania. And you go to events like that, you were just hooked. You're drawn in. And then it just got really, really stupid from there on for the next 8 to 9, 10 years of collecting and traveling and Caesar. And it just turned into being that. My wife has been real supportive. She didn't give me a real hard time about money being spent, but needless to say, I had to do some buying some things and hiding some things and buying things on crack cash versus credit cards, if you know what I'm saying.
that tends to be it seems to be a storyline here on the Figure Guys. But one question before I throw it over to Tyler, because I know he's got some amazing questions. But being at the Pontiac Silverdome for WrestleMania 3, mm-hmm. Those so many. I mean, there were 98,000 or something like that.
107, I think.
I mean, for a 10-year-old kid, how did that? I mean, it was overwhelming, I'm sure, for an adult, but for a 10-year-old kid, I mean, how was that?
I mean, I went to some Detroit Lions games. We know they're terrible, and they've been terrible my whole lifetime. But I went to a couple of Lions games up in Pontiac Silverdome, and there was, pretty sellout crowd. So I was kind of used to the crowd a little bit because, it's 40 minutes away, and right now I'm 20 minutes away from like Ford Field and Comerica Park. But to go to those events like that was something I'll never forget. We had nosebleeds, of course. My uncle took me, and the nostalgia. I didn't appreciate it then. I knew Hogan. I thought for sure he was losing back then. But I didn't appreciate the nostalgia. These years later that would have on wrestling in general. But yeah, it was an epic thing for me and really impacted me long term. It led to the chaos of today.
Tyler?
Yeah, James, it's great to have you, and it's great to be back with the whole panel on the podcast. But I was going to ask you, when you were helping us prepare for this show, there's, out of all the storylines, you mentioned the NWO, but I want to go back to the 80s, what you were talking about with WrestleMania 3. It happened later, and it involved two superstars you were talking about. Speaking of Hogan, and it was a big storyline, and it also had the Macho Man. I believe you were sharing with us that's one of your favorite storylines, and it was. It really grabbed everybody's attention, especially for back then in the 80s. And that would be the Mega Powers. I mean, you were sharing that. Just kind of elaborate and share your experience as a fan, how that touched you, that storyline, because I believe it touched us all. It was magical. I mean, that was the soap opera field of sports entertainment.
Yeah, I was hooked in. I mean, I didn't care anything about Saturday Night Live. I could care less. But, man, if it was Saturday night's main event, that TV was on. I didn't care if I had to be my person. If I was a remote control, back then you had to be a remote control, turn your TV yourself. But at 11:30, I was on. I was hooked. At 11:30 to 1 a.m., it was me. Anything Hogan and Macho Man did, pure gold. I appreciated it then as much as I do now. I believe every little bit of that storyline, the Hogan, Macho Man, Liz story, Mega Powers. I bought every bit of it. Yeah, that was very impactful. Hogan's one of my favorites all time. I've been to his, been to Florida and his places a few times. We love that, absolutely. I mean, I wish I'd have been able to meet like Macho Man when I was back then, but or Elizabeth, of course. But to experience those Saturday main events live on TV back then was epic for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. I think we're all just big fans of those superstars. It was great. Yeah.
Boy, you're a big fan of Caesar. He's said, me and James HoneyCut are the Mega Powers of LJN groups. Zash, what are your thoughts on that?
James, how are you, buddy? I want to have a chat to you about some figures. This is a figures podcast, so we should get stuck into the figures side of things. What have you got in your way of collection of? Do you just collect LJNs, or are you a Hasbro as well? And how are you with the custom side of things?
Well, I kind of wish it just stuck to the LJNs. However, we kind of know that doesn't work too well for us collectors. So of course I have every LJN. I can't tell you how many slaughters I had, and I still have a few of them. I have pretty much every one of the Hasbros. I have the retros. I have Remcos. I love customs. I have probably 20 customs. As we know, some customizers are, severe talented. I've tried to do some custom work. I'm more of a buyer than a maker. But yeah, I collect everything. If I find it cool, if I find it different, I'm in. I like stuff that's one of a kind. There's a lot of customers that I can't get that, so I really want that to add to the collection. Absolutely. Yes.
So when you say one of a kind, are you talking about figures that weren't made by LJN that you want to try and get in your collection, or are you talking about maybe different sculpted figures?
Yeah, so so we'll get down here. So I have a Hogan one. I did get the LGN for Life one made by Ann Slaughter. And I have quite a few. I have quite a few regular ones as well down here. Let me see. Sorry, I'm using my work laptop. And I think this Andre is probably one of my favorites. I'll get back to where I was at. But what really started it was talking to Mike Weems a little bit, and he set me up with a custom crush, and that really got me hooked into a lot of the customs. One figure alone can do it for you, and that one did it for me. It brought me in deeper to the customs. So he's a pretty good customizer as well.
And what got you into the LJN for Life? Was that started for a while before you became the admin there?
Well, what happened there was, obviously, unfortunately, in wrestling groups, there is politics. For some reason, I'm not sure, but there just is. I don't want to get into why or whatever, but there just is. So Mike was an admin of one of the groups. Politics happened. Mike left. Mike started working on a group, something called Telegram. You guys probably have heard of Telegram. It's like a WhatsApp group or something, and was chatting. I had a hard time keeping up with the Telegram just because there was just so many chats. I went away for the weekend, lost service. I went up north of Michigan where there's just no internet. And next thing I knew, it's like 1,000 messages in there. There's no way I'm going to scroll back through all that and read it. So I messaged Mike. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I said, I can't stick around the Telegram. And Mike's like, hey, what do you think if we just start our own group? And I'm like, well, sure. If you need, I'm in. And that's pretty much what happened with LJN for Life is, Mike just got the hunch. Let's just start our own group. Let's see if we can do. Let's, just keep it small. Keep it, a few hundred members, but keep it sincere. We didn't care about the raffle power hitters. We didn't care about any of that stuff. We just wanted the guys who we knew who were in the collecting world to be collectors. The guys who were in the collecting world, who were just good people. And that's what we tried to really, bring into the pages, into our page. And I think that vibe has been really successful for the LJN for Life. It's just being a sincere group. And we try to make that all, part of our MO for sure.
Excellent. No, you've definitely been a great group for me and what I've been a part of it. Brutus, you found the same sort of experiences there?
Oh yeah, well, it's interesting listening to that. I mean, I have to give James a huge shout out because across other groups, and especially LJN for Life, he was the person who he and Michael instigating the forum boxes for the Wrestling Superstars book when people didn't know what this Brutus Valentine person actually was, and they hadn't really landed. And I don't know how many boxes I ended up sending through you, James, and then you getting them out to members. There was no extra charge for that. It was just you actually just doing it as part of the community, and that's actually becomes a good thing to potentially do into the future because it's better for me to send a box and have a guy distribute it and everything work that way. And LJN for Life just seemed to grow and grow and grow. And a lot of the guys who have spoken to me, and sometimes people send me messages and they're all off the record, of course, is that they just like it's a freer place. And you mentioned politics. I don't think there's a couple of crazies get on any forum now and then they tend to disappear. But I haven't really seen much trouble in LJN for Life amongst the members at all. And I think people sort of really respect that. And it's sort of like it's bringing a bit more fun back into the hobby because it's I don't know. There's 197,000 forums. I can't keep across them, but sometimes. Jesus, they're bloody serious about the rules they put on what a collector needs to do. And no, you can't have this figure and you can't have that. I don't see any of that with Michael and James's work through LJN for Life and the guys who are part of it.
Where is Michael?
So
what's he doing? He's usually messaging.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing tonight. I know he's taken on a different, switching jobs. I know he's leaving a job and going to a different job. And he's also has we live in the north. When we get our, 3 weeks of summer, we do everything we can do to enjoy it. Not 3 weeks. I'm just exaggerating there, but it's not very
3
long.
days.
It's 60 one day at 90 the next, and it's going to snow tomorrow. Yeah. That's Detroit. That's Minnesota likes that. It's just, our weather just sucks, or just terrible for the most part. It's beautiful right now, but so Mike, he bought a side-by-side, which is like an ATV, and he lives in Minnesota, rural area, and he's just out roaming that thing every day. He's having a good time up there because I think in Minnesota,
all I guess is, it's going to snow. Pretty much it happens up there. He's way up in Minnesota, which is, if you look at the map, it's, you're into Canada up in there. I mean, I'm really 15 minutes from Canada myself, but I'm southern side of it.
That's all right. We're only 9,000 miles away from Canada, so that's not too bad.
You guys have nice weather down there.
Look. I actually, it's interesting you felt that because when I was getting a lot of orders out, bulk orders, I run it through the Australia Post website. I have to put everything in individually, but the labels print out really small, and the address is like this big. And I was saying at the post office, I don't know how these postal US Post guys are going through the snow trying to read this tiny little address to actually get it to the guy right at the end. So I think they're not taking into account the final section. I just don't know how you go digging snow off your car every day and shoveling the stoop and going ice fishing and all those sorts of things that we've experienced through American culture down here, like through what's the film with Walter Matthau and the two old guys who hate each other. Grumpy Old Man. That's actually, I was surprised how funny that actually was. Yeah.
Grumpy Earl Man too. Yeah, there's two of them.
Yeah.
Because
Zash doesn't have that from the northern beaches of Sydney, carrying his 6 foot, 220 pound rig around. Speaking of which, James, you might need a bit of a wider lens there because you're looking like you're a pretty, as we'd say down here, a pretty big unit. So I heard down in your basement, along with some figures, you might also have some pretty serious workout equipment too.
Yeah, I have a gym in the garage, a pretty substantial gym. I try to stay into it. It's tough right now in the summertime because it's weird. I will lose weight in the winter and I gain it in the summer because in the winter I have nothing else to do. In the summer, there's barbecues, there's beer, there's other things I'd rather do than work out. But I try to, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days a week. Try to.
That's all.
I'm not getting
6
young.
days a week. Yeah.
Try.
6 days a week. Oh, that's a bit of an amateur there. Yeah. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, a little bit. Right.
So Tyler, you had a whole raft of things that you wanted to get James to talk about. So.
Yeah, just another question, James, was what are some of your memories of the first LJN figures that you started with your collection? I mean, take us back to that because everybody would be interested in hearing that backstory.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good one for me. So it started, I think, when I was, it had to be 1985 probably, so I was 7 or 8 years old. I was living with my mom and us, we were living with my grandparents. It was a tough time here in the area. And my grandparents bought. My grandma was a real conservative. She was Sears, Montgomery Wards. I mean, you'd know what that is, Tyler.
Oh,
for sure. But anyway, she was one of those department stores. She'd buy high end things because she knows she's gonna buy it one time. That's what she would do. So to get a toys from my grandparents from Christmas, that was something completely unexpected. It was usually you get clothes, and that's what you get from grandparents. But I got that year, I remember really significantly, it was the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov tag team. I couldn't believe it. I got Greg the Hammer Valentine, and I got from my mom, I got Ricky Steamboat. My mom at the time, she was working at Toys R Us. And for her, it was, she cash her paycheck. You have to at least spend $5 to cash your paycheck. So it was me and my brother, who was in the Thundercats at the time, would always volunteer to go with mom because she's going to cash her check. To cash her check, you have to go with her to work, and then you get a toy because she has to spend $5. So I started getting wrestling figures in 1986, 87 in that era. But my first ones were those 4 for sure. I still have them. But yep. From back years and years ago.
I mean, that's awesome.
That is amazing. I mean, I wish I still had. I mean, the only one I have is Iron Sheik and Macho Man Randy Savage. Got a question from a viewer. There is an amazing belt that is on behind you. What belt is that?
Okay, well, This is kind of tough to see in here. This is just the basic, the Stone Cold belt, we'll call it, from WWF. This is the belt my wife and I continuously took with us every WrestleMania, every local show, every fan access. So this belt traveled a lot and has been on a lot of planes, a lot of car rides. It has a significant amount of autographs on it. I was kind of big into autographs. I'm only big into autographs if I have it done myself. I'm not going to buy an autograph because what's the point? So this has got, the Undertaker sign the front of it, the fan access, and it goes right around the whole belt. We got lots of autographs on here, from Edge to Stone Cold to Ric Flair. I have a heck of a John Cena story whenever we have time for that one. But I have Goldberg and right here Stone Cold right here. So there's a lot of autographs on the back. Ricky Steamboat. This thing's pretty loaded up with them. To me, it's priceless. It goes all the way through here. Just nothing but autographs. Batista, I got a great story about Batista. I followed, unfortunately, I was a stupid kid, followed him into the one of the theaters here in Detroit area. Didn't even realize I was following him. He went right in the bathroom. I'm standing next to Batista. He was using the bathroom. So am I. I look, I see this giant standing next to me. I'm a pretty excited guy. Here for me. And what do you say to Batista, who's standing there doing his business? Hey, you think we're done getting an autograph? This guy did that, and yes, I got an autograph.
Hey,
he waited to wash his hands first. So yes, I did. That's the story.
James, can I slip one in before Dave comes in? I've only got one ever story about a WWE superstar or any wrestling superstar, and it's Batista. I used to do boxing in the City Gym in Sydney, and I was doing boxing one day, and I've gone into the changing room, and there's Batista stark naked in there. He was using the boxing gym, and the first time I ever saw Batista live, he's there starkers with zero clothes on. I'm just looking at him with my jaw dropped. I've never stood there looking at a male naked for so long in my life.
It sounds like there's a bit of a pattern here, Tyler. Have you seen Batista's junk as well?
Batista junk party.
I respect him, but not that close. I
kind of have a story. I kind of have a story like that. I was working for WCW back in 1997, and that's where I met Dusty Rhodes. And you know where I met Dusty Rhodes? Just guess. In the men's room.
Yep.
He was doing his business. I did not ask him for his autograph like James did with Batista. Oh, and but he said, "How are you doing today, brother?" I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm standing next to the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, taking a piss. I'm weirdly attracted, but this is amazing. I mean, I've looked up to this guy forever. I mean, but I want to know about this John Cena story. I mean, it's got me.
All right. So we were in LA for WrestleMania. How was that? WrestleMania? Oh, shoot. It wasn't 23. That was Detroit, I think. Anyway, we were in LA for WrestleMania. And we ended up getting tickets to Hard Rock to, not the, what was that Rock's place out there? House of Blues. That was it. House of Blues. And we saw that John Cena, who was a relatively newer, I think he might have been the WCW champ. I'm sorry, the United States champion or something. He had the spinny belt at the time. And he was just still up and coming a little bit, but he was doing his You Can't See Me album. And so I said the wife, which, she went along with this, and we ended up getting tickets to go see John Cena perform. And I'm not a big rap guy, more of a country guy. I just have to admit that. But I was like, well, I'll go. Let's go. We went, and there's John Cena performing. He's up on stage. And, of course, I want to get an autograph, but, of course, I want to get the autograph from him. So we're surrounded it's not a real big place, and we're surrounded by, security, whatever. And we see these couple blonde girls are kind of like backstage behind where kind of Cena's at. And I'm yelling at one of the girls, "Hey, can I get an autograph? I need Cena's autograph." She's really, really being shy. She comes over, and I luckily have my wife with me, so she knows I'm not a complete stalker. So that does help you a lot in the case when you got your wife with you. So she comes over, and she goes, "I can try, but I don't know if I can do that." And she goes, "But you have to let me sign your belt too if I can get you John Cena's autograph." I'm like, "Oh, I don't want no damn girl sign my autograph, but I can erase when I get home. Sure, let's get this over with. Let me get Cena's autograph." So I handed the marker, and she signs her name, Michelle McCool. The Undertaker's wife signed my belt before she handed it to John Cena, and John Cena signed the back of the belt. So I thought about erasing it because I didn't know who Michelle McCool was. Now I'm kind of glad I didn't because it's Undertaker's wife. I had to use her to get my belt signed by John Cena at the House of Blues in L.A.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got Michelle McCool and John Cena. Well, here's Cena. It's tough to see. But here's Cena's right here. If you can get closer. But anyway, it's probably tough to see. There's Cena's right in here. Michelle McCool is right above it. So yeah, and I got here's Ric Flair. So as long as I get the belt signed myself, I'm cool with it. I don't like it. I'm not going to send it out to Hogan and have him sign it, stuff like that. But I like to have the experience because it's the memories and the history to myself of where was I, what happened. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I remember them.
I mean, that's who would have thought Michelle McCool? I mean, you were like, I don't know who this blonde is. I mean, yeah, sure, you can sign it. I mean, and
I'll race when I get home. Big deal,
But I mean, and now she's somebody. But I know Tyler, you have some more questions.
Yeah, I'm going back to that whole 90s era because that fascinates me, just like with the 80s of wrestling. Would you say that reinvigorated your passion for collecting again? I mean, was there ever a time you kind of took a break? I mean, because that was such a vital time for all of us as fans that grew up during that time. I know we were flipping channels, seeing there was so many big storylines going on. I mean, was that because there was new lines, maybe of LJNs or other lines coming out that may have stoked up that passion again as a wrestling fan?
So I was all Wolfpack.
Okay.
It's got him. Oh, boy. I was Wolfpack. Oh, I was bleeding some red. I was all in of anything that when Hogan came over, because obviously he was WWF as far as I was concerned back then. So as he came over, it was all in WCW. I could care less about Silly Steve Austin at the time. That's why I called him at the time. I disagree with that now, but that's how I've looked at it. I was Goldberg. I was that guy at that time. So every single toy that WCW was producing back in, we'll call it 98 till 2004 or something, whatever the years were, every line I bought. Now, those toys have made it up in the attic, and they've been there for I don't know how many years now. But yeah, I was all in WCW. My best men at my wedding, so I got married in, what year was that? 98, I guess it was. My best man, we all got like Wolfpack t-shirts, and yeah, that was a thing for us then. It was cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was an interesting time with the resurgence. I mean, it was only available through cable TV down here through people who had it, but we got most of the figures. We got the old San Francisco toy maker figures, then the Toy Biz lines. In fact, they were everywhere down here. I had to chase the OSTMs from the US to get the subsequent ones, and to get Alex right, you have to have a figure in your collection. So it was quite an amazing time, and I don't know, I always liked the Flock. I liked the way the Flock used to have those oddballs in there, and really liked the way Billy Kidman was. Used to work in the ring, but it was an amazing time for you guys then to actually have on the same night. So yeah,
those cruiserweights back then were they were some talented guys for sure. The Juventud Guerreros of the world, for sure. I was all in WCW.
The Canadian Vampire, and
I didn't get anything.
They had so much talent on the roster that it was hard for people to get a look in, especially when you get the big names jump across, like the Warrior and his infamous. What was he? Did he hide under the ring for 3 hours or something and have to come up through the trapdoor? And then there was a body slam on the door, and it did. The guy got slammed or something. I don't know. It's strange times.
Yes, it was. It's
very strange. Yeah.
And speaking of strange times, I mean, with this whole pandemic and everything, has it affected your collecting? I mean, because LJN prices, I mean, I ask this to everybody. I mean, I go online to these groups that people are selling, a men on card, whoever for like $900, and people are buying it. I mean, what is your thoughts on the rising prices of LJNs and just wrestling figures in general?
Well, we use the old cliche, it's whatever somebody's gonna pay is what they're gonna get. Luckily for me, I have had MOCs, mocks. I've had them. They're not my thing. They just take up too much wall space, and then end up making it to a tote, and then they get bent up, and I'm just not going to spend the money. I want to be able to physically touch the toy. I want to be able to display it probably into a cabinet with everything else. That was kind of what happened back in the, if I knew what these prices were today back in, 99 when I started eBay, I'd have bought everything I could at that time. Like I told, I think Tyler a little bit, I didn't know Series 6 even existed until the year like 2003 or 2004. I never had a clue about that. It wasn't really available here in the United States. But today's prices, when you're seeing a $300 Warrior and it was $200 last year, now it's $325. Sliders went through the roof. We've seen beaters selling for unbelievable amount of money. These beat up cards, I guess, are going stupid money too. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do on Eligible for Life. We're trying to make it where if we see something, I buy it at a good value if I can, and I pass it on if possible. If I know I'm not collecting it, I try to do that. If I see something I know somebody's looking for, I'll just kind of, hey, I see it's a great price here. If you're interested, let me know and we'll make out a deal. But the prices, they are out of control. Hopefully they come back down to earth. I don't think the pandemic has really stopped me from buying anything or, selling anything. It hasn't stopped anything at all. It just stopped our mail system from working here. But other than that,
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was chatting to I was chatting. Sorry, Brutus. I just slipped something in here.
That's
I was chatting to a friend yesterday, just through Messenger, and he's a massive Star Wars collector, and he was asking me about some wrestling figures that weren't really anything of a big deal, but he mentioned that these wrestling figures were loose. They were just Hasbro's, just commons, and they were all graded. And I was thinking, who would grade a common Hasbro, figure? They were nothing special, like Earthquake and that kind of thing. And I was thinking, who would grade a loose Earthquake? And he says, well, with 90% of my loose Star Wars figures are all graded because they're worthwhile, because they're worth so much money. And it got me thinking that we think that wrestling figures are so expensive and all that, but compared to a lot of the other figures out there, you never really see graded LJNs if they are loose, do you? I never do. Do you guys?
Yeah, we've seen some of that have been graded, or at least advertised as if they're graded.
Advertised as graded, yeah.
Advertised
Bendies often, yeah. There was a run of Bendies a few years ago that were all graded. Actually, I don't see as many graded figures, but I'm not watching anything at the moment. I can't afford to buy anything at the moment, which is always a rule that I apply to what I'm doing. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. And so that's often, a good idea of how to collect, because otherwise it can become an obsession if you're actually borrowing to buy things. The grading thing's interesting and the relative values is an interesting thing. Those Star Wars guys are crazy, right? Full stop. So we won't go into that any further. But in relative terms, the rarest mint on card, black cards, higher percentage increase in their value than do any other figures that I've actually researched. So, I won't go into exact figures, but you will not get a Randy Macho Man black card on Own Bio card for under 15,000 US. And that was available most commonly at $7.99 and then at $3.99. Now that's a one-off. That's about 4,000% or something. But even some of the others. But these bad boys were meant for play, and that's toys. Kids got them and played with them. But it's very hard to kill an LJM. They lose paint, but they still keep on keeping on. And that's why I like when customers sort of give them a new life. But I know on some of the forums, and James would have seen that as well, and Zash, there's some people get on and say, you customizers, you're for us because you're using up all the figures that are left. And I'm thinking, oh, well, there was about 2.2 million Hulk Hogans. They're not going to run out soon. But anyway, that's just my thought on it. I think that's quite an odd thing when they say that. They think there was only 1,000 produced. No, there might only be 1,000 in near mint condition still going around now. But there's another 10 or 20,000 of even the rarest ones still out there somewhere.
Right.
I'm still waiting to find a loose hillbilly gym that is graded. If you see one, just let me know, because I'm pretty sure that it would cost more for the grading than it would for the figure, wouldn't it? I've never graded a figure, but you guys educate me if you can. What's a grading process? I mean, if you're in Australia, you have to send it to the US. Is that correct?
Or the UK, yeah.
I have no idea. Never got
I've never.
part of it.
No, I did send into the grade. He actually even sent the information of the book to some of the grading companies. I think one of them actually bought a couple of copies because their relative pricing was way off. Not that the graders do that, but you know, there was a big mint on card collector, a mock here in Western Australia, who only bought graded LJNs, and so. From our point of view here, to pay that amount of money and then the shipping and the conversion, he was really into it big time to get him in top notch. Some guys love it graded. It means the display and they believe it adds value to their figure. But it's, you know, again, and I touched on this earlier with LJN for Life, there's no rules in collecting. Collect a mint. Put them upside down on their head in your cabinet if you want. Collect them mint on card. Collect them bent. Take them off the card, leave them on the card. You know, if we on what's a fun hobby, then in my opinion, it doesn't really become all that fun anymore. So,
well, the other thing that I've always wondered about gradings is you get something graded, and say it's 85%. Well, what happens in time if that falls off what happens in time if it falls off the shelf or something happens to it, and it's still got that grading of 85%? How does it change? I don't get it.
An interesting thing with the cut LJNs in the grading, because they can't see the figure from the back. But a lot of if you've got a lot of figures like the Killer Bees and Greg Valentine are a good example. If you've still got them on card and you take them out, you're likely to lose little patches off their I was going to say their asses, off their bums, because they're stuck to that little plastic insert. So we're talking a figure really depreciates so much, so that's a bit of a mystery. But I don't know. People love it, so and you know they do tend to sell for more. So good luck to that.
And speaking of something that's not gonna depreciate, the Hasbook is been sent to the United States and it's being distributed as we speak. How is that process going? I mean, is it sold out yet? I mean, give us an update. I know Greenville, he's a great guy, and you know, and he's got a great project in the Hasbook, and I'm looking forward to getting my copy hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Hopefully, yeah. There's a Hasbook. He's working as he can to get them out. Look. You win and lose on things. It's a pre-order, and guys ordered, and so there's more than he can get through in just like a weekend, right? So he's now 3/4 of the way through getting through the pre-orders. So we're sort of blessed that people jumped on board, but realistically, once you mail over 20 things and have to package them, it actually becomes another job, and he's got to balance it around his other one. But he's getting and the other thing is I've got to get the boxes over to the US. They've got to arrive. They've got to go through the snow, even though it is summer. He lives up north as well. And we're in lockdown here where I live. Our lockdowns are really quite strict and severe. And so it's about when the planes, he's got enough on hand. And he hopes that next weekend, I think he's got a couple of days where he'll be able to get all the pre-orders out there. And then we can actually launch officially. So in terms of sales, we're almost calculate as the basic break-even point, which is great, you know. And then from that, hopefully Granville can start to get some money for all his efforts. But I don't think he wants to send out a couple 100 books again. It's hard work, not difficult work, hard work. Yeah.
I mean, especially for
I've got a box over here.
Yeah, he was. I'm doing it by myself. I'm like, well, that seems like it's going to take forever, but I mean, it's a passion project, and it looks. I mean, it looks amazing. I mean, he did a video, a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago, and it looks amazing. And hopefully Tyler will read it whenever he gets it in the next few months. Are you looking forward to getting that Hasbook?
Yeah,
I mean, on the list.
Yeah, I need to get it for sure because I mean this is the guru here, and it's a shame if I don't get educated. I'm being serious about that. I know I try to be comedic, but yeah.
I mean,
don't want to take up too much time. Grenville wrote it, not me. A whole lot of work.
Okay, Grenville, yeah.
It's really. Sorry, I wasn't correcting you there. Oh, well, technically I was, but I didn't. Not in a critical way. But yeah,
you needed to do it. No, that's true. His work too, but
and his work.
On a more serious note, Tyler, are you going to start collecting wrestling figurines?
Well. Figurines.
Hadn't heard that. Speaking of Michael Weems, he really gives me a hard time, James. I made the mistake of saying wrestling figurines like it's precious moments. I didn't mean to. I meant to say LJN. So how embarrassing. Now they're dolls. Some Facebook users dolls. This is a running theme, a running joke. Finally, let me just say they're figures, okay? Everybody,
on my own dime, I am going to get a shirt made for Tyler. Just send me your size, and I will say they are not wrestling figurines; they are wrestling dolls.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it works. Hey, it's a box of gimmicks like Bruce Pritchard. Why not?
Hey, James, whenever you were growing up, well, I mean, did you call them action figures? I mean, like, when did you collect other figures? Did you call them action figures? Did you call them dolls? Did you call them figurines?
Action figures, probably. I mean, I wouldn't call them dolls for sure. No, my youngest, he's 16 now. He made fun of, because it's not been a secret, I have a lot of wrestling stuff in the attic. I had a huge wrestling room in my other house where I bought this house, and it was out of control. But most of the stuff's in the attic now. I have a lot of stuff displayed. I pulled a lot of stuff out and sold it, and as I told Tyler, I did a big sale a few years ago. Kind of kicking myself in the rear end for that one still. But my son, he gets on my case about wrestling figures, wrestling toys, wrestling dolls, whatever you want to call it. He got on my case about them picking on me like a grown man playing with, has wrestling figures, his toys. He got on my case until he saw what my transactions would sell if I sell these things. When he finds out how much a solder slaughter, when he knows what a solder costs and what it's worth, he stopped making fun of them. That humbles the kid pretty quick when he looks into my little toy chest behind us there, and he goes, I could buy a car with that, and he's not wrong. So we know what the
that's what for my wife. When I have to say to my wife what they're worth, she says, "Well, sell the things then." So she calls my bluff each time.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like my wife. She says, "Oh, you're going upstairs to talk and do your podcast about wrestling figurines?" I'm like, "No, we're talking about wrestling figures." And then I told her that I can go out if I find a really expensive one and buy it for maybe cheap somewhere in the wild. I may be able to sell them for a couple $100. And she was like, "Okay, go do it." That leads me to another question, James. What is the rarest or the most excited wrestling figure, if you have, that you found in the wild? It could be an LJN, could be a Hasbro, could be Galoob, whatever. What's the biggest one that you found in the wild?
We're up here in Michigan, and you guys start from up here. There's nothing here, unfortunately. I was at a flea market. This is completely off the realm. I was at a flea market on Saturday, large one here, and I did find 5 LJNs in the wild, but they weren't in the wild per se because they were the professional flea marketer guys who had the tags on them. You all seen that guy. Yeah. They were priced accordingly too. Was a $7 iron sheik at $25. I walk away shaking my head like, come on. I have a tote full of them things. We just don't see. You just don't see much around here, unfortunately. You might get lucky at a flea market here or there and find something. You'll find stuff from the Diamond Dallas Page era, back in the early 2000s, but you're not going to find much. It's kind of a dead area.
I have the same problem over here, mate. When I go to a market or something and someone's selling something, I get all excited when I see it, and then I find out that they've looked them up on eBay and found out what they're not selling for and charging that price. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like I told Tyler, I made a really big eBay sale, before I got out of wrestling, thought I was done with it about 4 years ago. Sold pretty much everything. I took a whooping on it, but I thought I was getting a great deal. I just pulled them out of the attic. I knew these are worth money. It was everything was mint. And next thing you know, I put on my eBay, sold them to a guy named Brandon Ward. I didn't even know who Brandon Ward was at the time. All I know is offered me this amount of money for these wrestling figures. That was my attic. I laid them all out for him, gave him a great deal, even shipped them for free. Oh boy. And I didn't realize at the time what a Boss Man nightstick cost. All I know is I've had this thing for 20 years, ever since I bought them on eBay back in like 2000, 2001. They've been up there for 15, 16 years in the attic. And it's like, oh, shoot, you're going to pay me this much? Here you go. Take these things. And then I found wrestling pages on Facebook. And, open the wallet.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, you got the 2000, 2001. That we're sharing some sort of times there. That's when I was trying to finish off some part of the LJN collection, but the Australian dollar was worth only half, 50 cents US. So that was a killer. But I bought the white shirt referee on my honeymoon, actually, and I've still got the white shirt referee because from an internet cafe, an internet cafe, and I was waiting for the auction. And so I said, I need to go in and get this. And I've still got that, and it's not in great condition. But anyway, there was an interesting sort of time on when there was plenty available back then. And then, of course, there's been a number of different cycles of it. And for the last few years have just set the hobby quite wild. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember losing plenty of auctions at the last minute in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, waiting on my internet to go beep, 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 beep. And I lost. Oh man!
Try do it.
That bearded
try and do it from here.
$26 lost me $27. Oh man!
Yeah,
I didn't know it was a bearded curse.
From here, because
that one.
We're only connected with a copper cable. Still, technically, it's a big copper cable that goes through the Pacific Ocean, but it's pretty quick. So I have to open two browsers and put in a bid there and a bid there. And then in the last few seconds, if I got outbid, I'd hit the bid on the second browser because there wasn't time to do it through the first browser. So it was sort of just like click, click. There's a technique. People use their phones now, but I still use an old desktop. But as I said, I haven't bought any time. And anything I show you on screen, it's waiting because the other room needs to be fixed. And I need to move the office into there. But because lockdown has impacted on where we are for so long, over so many months, we can't get tradies, contractors in. They're all backed up and all that sort of stuff. So, but that's a pretty significant. What the guys would share that, especially giving up the collection and then unfortunately buying it back at a higher price. And it's good that your 16-year-old son is wising up to what may or may not be down to him in the future if he plays his cards right or wrong.
If he plays his cards right, he just knows by looking in the cabinet behind me and what's upstairs. And oh boy, if we know the values of these things, and he knows that's a car, you can buy me a car with all that stuff. And oh boy,
yeah. I've this before. I don't want to keep talking, and I've only hinted at, but I actually sold my car many years ago in exchange, and I used that money to buy beer and food for my WrestleMania 4 party. And I've never explained that. Yeah, that's a long time ago. So yeah. So it's wrestling, cars go together. Yep,
absolutely. The things. I mean, the thing that's gonna. I think it's gonna put the wrestling figure world. I mean, it's gonna make the prices go sky high. Is Custom Mania. I mean, and Zash, that's coming up. The deadline is in 20 days from today. I mean, it's on the 27th of June. You have to have him by midnight of that day. I mean, kind of explain, people watching and listening who may have been under a rock. What exactly is Customania, and kind of maybe go over some of the stuff that we're going to see.
Well, if you don't know what Customania is, this is probably your first time you've been listening to this show. So welcome to the show.
What's Customania?
He's joking.
I'll be here all night.
Customania, it's the inaugural Customania, the first one we've ever had. So it's a bit trial and error this year, but we're going through everything with a fine tooth comb to get everything sorted. I know David's been working hard this week, and he's going to be working hard next week behind the scenes. David's not going to be on the live shows, to my knowledge. Are you, David?
I will be on the first show on the 28th of June, that Monday. I will not be on the Thursday or the next week's show in the grand finale. But yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, the production value of these opens that we have. One of the gentlemen who's going to be on the panel, Smash Ventura, he has put together an amazing open. What you say, Zash? I mean, from everybody that has seen it on this panel, besides James, I mean, what would you say? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it is like you're watching television. I mean, we're watching a movie. It is that good.
Everything Smash touches turns to gold. But yeah, it's going to be incredible. So we're going to have four nights of Custom Mania, which is going to be a podcast each night. It's going to run over 1.5 weeks. So the first night's going to be the opening. Basically, all the figures are going to be submitted at that stage, and this is just going to basically open Custom Mania. We're going to show off all the figures. They're going to be on a few of the groups. We've also got a Custom Mania website that we're working on, or that David's working on at the moment. So then it'll be basically 3 days of voting, which is the first round. And then on Thursday, we come back and have our second night of Custom Mania podcast. We'll talk about the figures that were in round one. We'll end round one. We'll open up round two, which will be a whole set of new figures, because each customizer is going to enter 3 figures. So we'll open round two. Talk about round two. People can vote away. That'll run until Monday night, which we'll have another podcast, which will be the third one. We'll end round two in that podcast, and we'll start round 3, which will be the final round. Each round, people are accumulating points, so no scores will be announced until the very last round, which will be on Thursday, which will end round 3. We'll tally up all the votes live and basically announce the winner live on the Thursday night Custom Mania podcast. If that makes sense to everyone, did I explain that well?
That was absolutely clear.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
I mean, that was amazing. I mean, you couldn't have said it any more clear. But I mean, it was. Everything is going to be on our Facebook page, on the LJN, on Zash's page, on the LJN for Life. I mean, it's going to be amazing, and it's like anything that you do in life. I mean, it only gets better. I mean, it's our first year doing it, and we have a great panel of hosts. Mike Steyer's going to be on there. We have, of course, Talking Tyler Peters. We have the Fixtorian, Bruce Valentine. Zash, I mean, I'm going to be behind the scenes, trying to do as much as I can, and kind of taking the burden off, the technical stuff off everybody, and so we can have a great show. We're gonna try to bring on a customizer on the show, just to kind of drive by, and we're gonna be showing each of the figures, in a video format, so we can talk about them. It's gonna be epic. I mean, it's definitely going to be one for the ages, as the promo and the open says, and that you're gonna hear about and watch in less than 21 days.
It's been awesome being able to organise such a great event for the customizers out there. It's a shame that I feel a bit jealous that I can't enter myself, because I just love being a part of these competitions myself. But look, I'm having a great time organising it and watching everyone's figures come in. So it's great for me to take a back seat, I guess, from the competition side. And it's challenging enough organising this event and organising what we're going to be doing with the scoring and everything like that. But basically, people will be emailing or sending a message to Brutus. So do you want to touch on that, Brutus?
Yeah, I mean, the votes are all non-disclosed the whole way through. So essentially, you can just message them to me. If we're not friends in Messenger, we might need to do that, or you can email them to me and we'll give the specific details, and I'll just be entering them into a spreadsheet, removing the names, but also having a spreadsheet for me with the names, of course, and they will totally be anonymous. And at the end of each round on those special podcasts, I think we'll be doing some sort of update on how some figures are going. Is that correct, Sash and David?
Yeah, I mean that will be running a crawl at the bottom of the screen, like you see on television. Yep. It's going to be having, right. Figure A is got 20 points, or figure A is in the lead over figure. It's going to be amazing, and we have. I mean, these prizes these awards that we've been talking about. I mean, I'm getting we're getting a custom. This is I'm breaking news right here. We're getting a custom belt made for the wrestling figure. Whoever wins, their wrestling figure gets a custom Mania custom wrestling belt, an LJN size belt for their wrestler. I mean, we have trophies. I mean, we have some great parting gifts and some great certificates for different awards. I mean, it's gonna be epic.
I've got the awards.
I had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead, Brutus, and then I'll run through the prizes after you've spoken.
It was a stupid question for David. Is that, do you have a digital custom belt in case? I heard this guy Greg Beefcake was entering some digital entries.
I do not, but I'm in us.
I cop it every week for the digital, so that I need to get one back. Yep.
I thought he was banned from this.
And speaking of something digital, I mean, I'm not sure if you can see it up there right above Tyler's head. It was Zash's recent date. I think it was Zash's date back in the
Zash's Tinder account popped up. Tyler. Oh yes.
Well, of course. Yeah,
I'm into leopard skin as well, Mr. Peters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you see that up there, James? Or it's pretty small.
Yeah, guys.
I see it.
These old boys think they're funny.
No! Hey, trust me, Brutus. I can make it a lot bigger.
What about your bathroom antics? Oh, yeah.
And there we go.
I'm gonna run through the Custom Mania prizes when you guys are finished. So first place, we've got 26-inch LJN personalized Custom Mania trophy. This is a trophy that you obviously keep. It's not a mail around trophy, so all trophies you keep forever. So the first place is a personalized 26-inch Custom Mania trophy brought to you by Joey Bags Customs. We've got $100 prize money. Yeah, $100 prize money, which I'm pitching into the event. And we've got a custom championship belt for the winning figure, which is brought to you by the Port Daddy, David Fine. So second place, we've got a 22-inch Custom Mania runner-up personalized trophy, which is also by Joey Bags, and an LJN or Hasbro book from Brutus Valentine. And third place is going to be a 22-inch third place trophy from Joey Bags Customs also. Then we've got merit awards. We've got an old school award, which will be judged by Brutus Valentine. So he'll be judging that off his own merit. We've got a sculpting creative award, which will be judged by Mike Steyer. We've got a paintwork award, which I'll be judging. We've got a host's choice award, which will be judged by Tyler Peters. And Pod Daddy's pick, which will be judged by David Fine. So all the hosts and panelists will be judging a figure on merits. So first, second, and third will obviously be public choice, which will be all private votes. Whoever you vote for will never be brought to anyone's attention. So don't feel pressure that you have to vote for someone that you particularly like over the figure you like. You can vote for anything you want, and none of that information will get out to any of the public. And the merit awards will be judged by the hosts. What are we laughing at? I'm trying to best here.
Sorry, Caesar put up. I'm a root for Tom Ward or Danny Weger. Now, Zash, if someone said that to you, I'm a root for Tom Ward or Danny Weger. That's sort of what we were talking about with Tyler and that girl as well. So,
Tom Ward just messaged me actually. Just eyeing me. Yeah. What's funny? What's really funny? I find funny is being an admin of Elgin for Life. Guys message me
working on this. I'm working on this. What do you think about this one? So I've seen. I'm not gonna tell you how many guys, how many figures I've seen already for Custom Mania, but I've seen quite a few already. Progress is the guys
there's no law against
it. I have
it.
a lot of money here.
We cannot stop people from showing everything around.
They like to share. They're sharing.
We would prefer you keep
this one, James. Like, that was cool. You know?
Yeah, people obviously are showing things around, and look, that's your choice. We can't stop that from happening.
It's fun. They want my opinion.
It's fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's all about the fun, exactly. But at the end of the day, we do want you to vote for your favorite figure, but it's up to you how you vote, of course. You know, your buddies are going to vote for their buddies, and that's just the way competitions run, I suppose.
That's right.
Hey, I mean, the like Sash says, I mean, the more people we get in there, I mean, it's more work for us, but that means that a lot of people are doing great work. I mean, I've gotten a couple of Facebook messages going, "Hey, this is my entry into Custom Mania." I'm like, these things are amazing, and I've seen some of the things that have been entered. I mean, there are a lot of talented people out there. I mean, and the one good thing about this is that we don't know who is making these customs. I mean, you'll know who some people are because they just have a style and a look. But Brutus is right at saying we're going to keep this anonymous. So, I mean, if a good customizer, does a great job, and then another customizer does it, you don't know who you beat. And at the end, if you beat the very best, I mean, it's kind of like an underdog may be able to beat like a Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I mean, it would make me happier if I were a customizer and I didn't know who I was winning, and I beat I don't know, one of the biggest ones in customizing, in the business. It would make me feel better, and it would bring the community better.
Right. Yeah, Greg Beefcake.
All we can hope for is that the best. All we can hope for is that the best custom wins, and that's what competitions are all about. It's not the nicest guy. It's not the best mate of the judges or anything like that. I want to try and keep it as fair as you can. And to me, I'd like to see, like any competition, you want the best person to win. The best boxer will win the boxing fight, and so forth. So that's all we can sort of hope for.
Yeah, it's just like professional wrestling. The best wrestler always wins in professional wrestling. That's what it's all about. Yeah. And that's when James was saying how into it he was with the Mega Powers, and I didn't get a chance to ask because when the Macho Man and Lust in His Eyes Hogan squared off, who were you rooting for, to use Caesar's term?
I was rooting for the Macho Man.
Yeah.
Liz was his woman, and I was rooting for Macho Man. Yeah. Hogan, you have a lot of women. It was Macho Man Hogan. It was Macho Man and Liz. So that was Macho Man. For sure.
The crowd was pretty interesting then. Sorry, David. Yeah.
Oh no, you keep on going. I have a question to ask Zash in a minute, but you keep on talking.
I was just going to say the crowd was pretty interesting because I had to do that match and stop it every couple of seconds to do like a hello and then trim that down for the book. In fact, that took me about 2 days just to describe that match, which is in Savage's Black Card bio. And so I was hearing the crowd, and they were sort of like up, down, up, down, up, down quite a lot. But, it was great to hear that cheering. It was sort of like localized noise for Savage, which was huge, and a more general loudness for Hogan. So sort of about fans versus the fan, I suppose, is a way of putting it not that well.
And that got repeated to me, but like I said, when I was at the Rock Hogan match, that was my generation repeat that I got to experience live. So if we want to do something similar, fan equation, that was it for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the, I think wrestling in the day, when I was growing up, and James, when you were growing up, and I know when the Fixtorian was growing up, I mean, it was a whole lot different back whenever he was growing up. But I think that the storylines and people make fun of LJN figures because they're just so big and bulky. But whenever I see one, or if I'm playing around one with my son, it just brings back a lot of nostalgia and happiness from my childhood, and that's what it's all about.
That's for sure.
And before we end the program tonight, I have a question for Zash. Can we get a Liz update?
Oh, she's still the same. I can't give you an update. I've been too busy with orders and stuff like that. She's
naked?
on the back burner. She's still naked. She's just got no hair or skin. She's grey.
Well, the way you've been scratching downstairs the whole show, I thought you might have been giving her a bit of special attention. But anyway,
I've been working on this Hulk Hogan made from Warlord.
Oh, I like the
nice,
look of that color. The distress looks good like that.
Keep him like that. You reckon?
Oh no, but because people like a finish. That's just a personal. That was just a personal thing. But you know,
if I could get rid of him and sell him like that, I could make hundreds of them. It'd be easy as anything.
But yeah, I mean, James, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule in your evening to come on and for your work with doing the stuff for Pete and his family. I mean, it's just amazing, and you're just doing a great work. And thanks for coming on tonight.
I appreciate you guys. It's definitely my pleasure. I've had a ball. I appreciate you guys for having me. Absolutely.
And as always, for the great. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're going to say something?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to thank James. James has helped me a lot in getting books out, getting books over, getting boxes, and that's because he's part of the community. And a special thank you to James from me as well. You know what I'm talking about there. And
absolutely.
I just say a big Tom is out of hospital, Tom Veg, and he's home. All right, so he's reunited with he's been blessed by a new child as well. He's lost a lot of weight, but he's looking good, and he's still got a sense of humor. So it's been a long battle for Tom, but now he had a steak the other week too. So really starting to move along.
Yeah, I mean it's a great community. I mean, I'm glad that Tom is. I've been following him, and he's going to be on hopefully in the next couple of months if he's up to it. But as always, for the great Stash Man, the great Tyler Peters, and the Fixtorian, the great Brutus Valentine, as always, I am David Fine. We will see you back here next week. And as always, we will talk to you in the past.